another serial entrepreneur with a terrific China story. And I've known him for a while. I've sort of admired what he did before I even met him, and he's got a really terrific story. Please give me a warm welcome. Put your hands together for the founder of Mochimedia, Jameson Su, everybody. Come on now. It's almost lunch. Good to see you. Welcome back. You just flew in when?
Yesterday.
Welcome back to the motherland.
Yes.
I have Irish heritage. He has Chinese heritage, if you could guess. But I found out that his father's name is James, and he was looking at a bottle of Jameson Irish whiskey, and that's how he got the name Jameson. So that's actually pretty. Is a fellow Irish American guy from Boston laughing over there. How awesome is it to be named after Jameson?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I could be interviewing Guinness Sue right now too. That's also.
I'm a big fan.
Excellent. Great. So tell me. So Mochimedia acquired by Shanda, $80 million, gigantic, huge exit. There have been very few exits of Chinese companies buying companies outside of China, but I think it's a wave that's maybe sparked by what Jameson did in building up the company. And you see Riot Games being acquired by QQ. Tell me about your story, about how you ended up starting the company and your sort of passion for gaming and sort of the history of yourself and Mochimedia, please.
Yeah, so we have pretty humble beginnings, not like Youlu. I'm glad I didn't follow up Youlu because that guy is my idol now.
700 million.
700 million.
18 months.
He just keeps doing it over and over again.
Save some for the rest of us. Yeah.
Youlu, you make your country proud.
No kidding.
But so for Mochi, we actually started very humbly. It was my co-founder and I. We'd worked on a company before. My first company that I started was in New York, and we were building games for advertising agencies. We also built games for ourselves, and one of the things we realized was it's actually really hard to make money in games, especially back when we were doing it in 1999. At the time, it was very much publisher developer model, and we gave up a lot of revenues and a lot of royalties to the publishers, and we ended up not making much money from the games that we made. And one of the things we realized was in that process, we were working with a lot of game developers that were also not making money. And as we started developing our business, we found out that advertising agencies were paying us more to build games, and we were actually making from the games we published ourselves. So from that, we saw a lot of opportunities. Unfortunately, the technology back in 2000 wasn't available to do what we did with Mochi. But in 2005, we started tinkering with technology again and found a way to insert ads into games. And one of the reasons why we grew so quickly was as the ads were inserted in the games, even if they were stolen or taken and put on other websites, the ads would go with the game. So one of the things that we helped was, one, we made it easier for developers to make money from the games. Two, even though people were stealing their games, they were still making money from it. So that was a big thing for us, and it helped us grow very quickly. We worked just the two of us for 2.5 years. We started off, we raised $100,000 from some friends, the guys that started a company called hotornot.com.
Anybody familiar with Hot or Not? Round of applause.
Anybody?
Picture, you select Hot or Not, yeah, so.
Many clones in China. But so we started off with 100,000, and we ran that for 2.5 years. As the company started growing bigger and bigger, as far as revenues, our ambition was to never go out and raise venture capital. We'd heard nightmare stories about working with VCs, and we'd never had experience, so it was something that we were sort of hesitant about. And in 2006, we approached Google to do a partnership deal. They asked us to acquire the company. They said, we shouldn't partner, we should just acquire you. They offered us $10 million, and at the time, I'm friends with Steve Chen in China, from YouTube, and they just recently sold their company for $1 billion, and I thought $10 million is nothing. Well, I want a little more than that, and at the time I was a little naive. I didn't realize that $10 million is actually a lot of money. And so we turned down the offer. We thought they would come back and give us more money. they said, okay, well, if you don't take the money, then we're going to build it ourselves. And that put a fire under my ass, and we got pretty scared by that. So we went out and raised money from venture capital, and we raised money from Excel. They had a great reputation. They just invested in Facebook, and we thought, this company's doing really well, and this firm was really reputable. And so we raised initially $4 million, and that was in 2007, and we raised that $4 million, and what I thought would last forever, and for an eternity, because we ran with 100,000 for 2.5 years. We thought $4 million would last
200 years.
200, yeah, something. But to my surprise, after a year, I spent $4 million, and at the end of 2007, we had to go back and raise more money. We ended up raising another $10 million, and we ran the company till 2010 when we were acquired by Shanda. And there's actually a lot of stories about us fighting with our VCs, a lot of other acquisition deals that fell through, and probably much too long to go over here. But you can read about it online if you're interested in this stuff.
Great story. So at the peak, how many games did you have on the platform, and what was the sort of revenue?
I mean, the beauty of the platform is it continues to grow. We have probably over 50,000 games now on the network. We reach about 180 million people all around the world. And I left the company in January, and we moved into we started a new company, but we moved into the mobile platform. Basically, the things that we saw with Mochi in online games, we saw a very similar trend moving towards mobile. And obviously, I think globally mobile is going to be such a dominant force. We already see with Facebook that they have over half their users using mobile. So they have more users on mobile than they do on the PC on the desktop. And I think with countries like China, where you still don't have penetration of broadband and PCs in every home, but you do have mobile in almost every user, in every hand, it's a huge opportunity with the costs of obviously Android and hardware costs going down, software being much more readily available. I think there's huge opportunities there.
Terrific, interesting. Well, speaking of the Middle Kingdom, I personally believe that Chinese companies will be a lot more aggressive in the future in buying international companies that have a lot of market cap. They can use paper. They can use their war chests. You were one of the first to go out. You raised $14 million, grew it for 5 years, $80 million acquisition, and the 2-year earnout. How was that 2-year transition in handing over the reins and sort of up until this January? What were some of the challenges and some things that surprised you maybe along the way?
Yeah, it was actually a great experience. I think we were a little hesitant because we hadn't seen any deals like it before us, and we'd known that there's a tremendous culture difference between how you run a company in the U.S. and how you run a company here in China, and that is still a challenge. When we first started setting up our team out here in China, we had to get used to a lot of the different rules, punching in. Everybody had to wear sort of badges, and rank was very prevalent. Whereas in the U.S., it's a very open culture. We don't care about hierarchy. We don't care about positions or titles. In the U.S., we have open work policy where people can come and go as they want. We don't have specific work hours, and we also don't keep track of vacation. If people want to take time off, they can take time off. The only thing that we ask is people to be responsible. Whereas here in China, it's quite different. Our team in China was very, hands-on, managed people very closely, and it took a little time to try. We were trying to bring our culture from the U.S. very open, believing in people, giving them responsibilities, and entrusting them with responsibilities. But it worked out great.
Did that actually happen? Were you able to massage in some Western, or was it more of you bending to just say, okay, you know what, it's your company now, you do it the way that you want it, or was there able?
I think it's a compromise. We're not totally Westernized. We don't have a totally Westernized culture, but it's also where the culture was very distinct from the parent company's culture, in that it was a lot more flexible. So,
interesting. So it's sort of a hybrid. And how many staff do you have in China versus San Francisco now?
So we had 30 staff in China, and then we had about 20 and I'm not at the company anymore.
Had.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm not at the company anymore, so I really don't keep track of what's going on. But yeah, I mean, I think one of the interesting things is in the U.S., the M&A market is so hot. We're seeing people and companies getting acquired all the time in the U.S., and I think it's quite distinct from China, whereas the culture here is more build versus buy. And I think over time, though, that will change within China as technology starts to move forward and people start to innovate more. And the entrepreneurship sort of culture becomes more and more prevalent. I think it will sort of, people will realize it's harder to just copy than it is to sort of pick up talent. At least I would hope so.
For the hire rather than the actual tech, and I think that's perhaps starting a little bit, being a lot more open, and I think companies are maybe seeing their limitations perhaps, but yeah, it's a long way to go, I think, for the West, but I think it is happening, like you said. Yeah.
So one of the things, I mean, I don't know how many entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs are here.
Entrepreneurs.
Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that we do see that happening that has been very successful is people starting up shops here and then actually getting picked up in the U.S. or partnering with people in the U.S. And as we're doing more in the U.S., obviously there's a huge focus on China. So many companies in San Francisco are trying to figure out how to enter the Chinese market. It's an enigma, and you see so many companies failing when they enter the Chinese market. And so for people that are already on the ground floor here, it's a huge advantage because one, you have talent, the labor costs are different, and two, you already understand the market. So I think. So
you're seeing Chinese companies piggybacking off of, say, iPhone or Facebook platforms getting snapped up. So they sort of have a sort of clear sort of entrance into U.S. or other markets.
Yeah. Like we saw Zynga do it. They picked up Andy Robbins' company.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot more that I hear about people trying to do deals with companies in China. But I think people are still trying to figure out how the sort of deal terms, how to structure things.
So I think it is still underdeveloped. I think both ways, but correct. I think pioneers like yourself are keeping or have opened those gates. So you talked a little bit about mobile being the future. What about your future? What do you think you're going to be doing?
Yeah. So for myself, I'm going to focus on mobile. We're not doing gaming anymore because I think that market is quite mature already, and the opportunities, the sort of greenfield opportunities are much lower. But within mobile, it's still, I think, totally blue ocean. Even though we see so many people in the space, I think we're just at the very beginning. And everything from mobile commerce to apps, you see a lot of guys and you hear a lot of stories of people doing well making apps. But there's also a huge opportunity, and the things that we're doing right now are focusing on building tools and services to support the ecosystem. So much money is going through the ecosystem. People are looking for more ways to become more efficient in building out their businesses. So that's the area we're focused on with mobile.
Terrific space. Excellent. Thank you very much. Big warm round of applause for Jameson Su, everybody. Mochimedia. Thank you, Jameson. Excellent. It is now lunchtime. It is officially lunchtime.